Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel. I got a question for you guys today that came from my buddy Mike from Sinking Creek Whitetails. He has a deer farm in West Virginia, and he's been posting daily questions from his comments. And he had a good one that I want to discuss with you guys. So the question was, what is the best cartridge for deer hunting? And obviously, I know where these comments are going to go, right? So what I wanted to do was show you my favorite cartridge for deer hunting. There's actually two of them. You can already see them behind me, and I'll tell you the reasons for each one and whatnot. And then I want to hear from you guys down in the comments what's your favorite. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to save this one. This is actually my favorite. This one right here is my favorite rifle. I built it myself. If you guys have watched my videos for a while, you know what this is, but we'll get into that one in a second. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this one. Now it is a very popular caliber in AR configuration, although it's probably just as popular in a bolt action. But if you can see that, that is 7.62 by 51 NATO or 308 Winchester. That is going to be probably what I think maybe the most versatile cartridge that you can hunt with. Now if you take a look here, this is my Aero Precision AR-10. It's top of the Vortex 4x16 by 42 scope, and you guys probably seen the video last year when I had the scope from this rifle on here. So I did not end up hunting with this rifle this year. This rifle, I would pretty much go and hunt anywhere in West Virginia with this rifle. And what I mean by that is, where we hunt most of the time. Now I know there's guys that say they shoot 500, 600, 700 yards. They're usually, on strip jobs. When I say strip jobs, I'm talking about like strip mines, where you can shoot from hilltop to hilltop. And I mean, there's some pretty long shots. Wouldn't be outlandish to think you could get a 1,000-yard shot out there, but that's not practical and probably not ethical. But anything 400, 500, 600 yards, I would not hesitate to use my 308. Now, the gun would be better at those distances than I would be at those distances, if that makes any sense. I am not comfortable shooting that far with this rifle, only because I have not made a habit of shooting that far with this rifle. I know this rifle will make those kind of shots. I don't know if I can make those kind of shots because I haven't put enough time. Anything 300 yards and under, a piece of cake. I'm putting it on it, and I'm not worried about that. But when you get into like 500 or 600 yards, I just don't have enough time behind the rifle shooting at those kind of distances to feel comfortable doing that. Show you a little bit more about it. It's got a fixed Magpul stock. I can't remember the name of these grips, but this is a big bulky grip. It does have an aftermarket trigger. It is an Aero M5 enhanced lower, Aero upper. So this one, I could say I put it together, but I didn't build this rifle. I bought the lower completed from a nearby guy, or a local guy. Now I did pop out. It was Aero everything, Aero controls, Aero trigger. I did take that out and put in the drop-in trigger. You can see the flat drop-in trigger. I can't remember. I don't know if it's a Timony trigger or I can't remember. I could pop it out, but I'm not going to mess with that on video because certain social media sites don't like when you're taking guns apart, so we're not doing that. The upper I did buy complete. I bought it from Primary Arms. It is, I believe, a 16-inch barrel with a 15-inch handguard. It has I think it's an Epsilon. I can't remember exactly, or it's a Pro Comp compensator on the end of it. Eventually I would like to suppress it, but I'm not paying the tax stamp and all of the government extortion for that, so I haven't done it yet. But pretty much if someone says, hey Josh, we're going hunting, and if they tell me I'm going to be shooting out 300-400 yards, this is the rifle that I'm picking up. Now that's not to say this other one won't do it, but we'll get into that now. The 308 packs a punch. You could shoot through brush if you need to, something 40, 50 yards. I shot a bear in 2022 with this rifle. It was about a 100-pound bear, 125-pound bear, and he was at maybe 40 yards, 30 yards. I shot him right in the skull and dropped him in his tracks. It was an open field, wasn't woods, but I mean, it did its job. So this is the one that I'm going to pick up. I don't want to say most of the time. The other one I pick up most of the time. But depending on where we're going, this one I would take anywhere in West Virginia. Now, even if I was going out west, like the elk hunt, that's probably what I would take. I did have a 300 Win Mag, but I ended up selling it. Someday I will have a 300 Win Mag. Now, one of my favorite cartridges instead of the 308 is 6.5 Creedmoor. I've got 2 rifles in 6.5 Creedmoor. One that I've never even shot. I bought it, put a scope on it, put it in the safe, and I've never even shot it. And then I've got another one. It's a Ruger American that I'm going to put a different stock on it this year. And we're going to put the... you guys have probably seen some videos of this rifle when I had my Burris Eliminator on it. But the only way to use the Burris Eliminator on an AR is with a riser, and I don't really like that. So the Burris Eliminator is going on my 6.5 Creedmoor Ruger American, but I'm going to put an MDT Oryx chassis on it this year. But as far as my favorite rifle, now I'm going to tell you guys this round is kind of jacked up. It's well, you look, it's shaped weird. I had some kind of weird ejection when I was shooting this rifle. I've not ever had any kind of malfunctions, but something happened. I had a bad magazine or something, and it kind of made it crooked. But this is 6.5 Grendel. Let me show you the difference between 308 and 6.5 Grendel. So 6.5 Grendel is the AR-15 platform, whereas 308 is the 308's the AR-10 platform. But this right here this is my baby. This is my favorite rifle. I built this rifle. Now there's kind of one thing that I want to do differently. So when I say I built this rifle, so I bought the builder's kit. It was the handguard, the upper, the lower, the mag pull grip, the mag pull stock. I bought that on Gunbroker, had it shipped to Valley Outdoors in Hurricane, West Virginia. I went and picked it up, and then everything else I purchased separately, and I put it all together myself. So it is an Aero M5 enhanced. So your buffer tube and the buffer spring, your ambi safety, your bolt release, all of that stuff is Geisley. Now, I know you guys are going to say, well, why didn't you put a Geisley trigger in it? When I was buying the triggers for this, the Geisley trigger I wanted wasn't in stock anywhere that I could find. And I really like drop-in triggers. So I did buy a drop-in trigger. You can take a look. I can't remember which one it is. I've had it listed before. I've got an Odinworks bolt. See if you can see that. It's an Odinworks bolt. It's an 18-inch Odinworks barrel. And it's Odinworks adjustable gas block and Odinworks gas tube. It does have an Aero Precision scope mount, and it does have a Tragicon 2.5x10 by 56 scope. This scope is the AccuPower and not the AccuPoint. They don't make this scope anymore. I bought it used several years ago from a guy secondhand, and I paid him like $700 for this scope when I bought it. And I tell you what's wild is this scope was on that rifle last year with a different mount. I put this scope on this rifle, and I was function testing it. And I'm not going to say I was shooting 1 MOA or anything, but it was shooting pretty good without me even sighting it in. And then I took it out one day, and me and my wife hung up a piece of steel, and I was ringing steel at like 30, I mean, it was like 30 or 40 yards. Again, it was function testing. I wanted her to shoot this rifle to see how there's no recoil on 6.5 Grendel. And at 30, 40 yards, I was hitting it, and it was swinging. And then finally I did go to the range and sight it in, and man, this gun just shoots so good. Now I will tell you, this is a knockoff. I bought this bipod on Camo to test it out. It had some issues where I had to grind down some stuff on the inside of it. I kind of couldn't decide on what I wanted to do, if I even want to have a bipod on this thing. So if I do keep one on it, I'll end up replacing it with either a Harris or a Magpul. And then, of course, I've never put a muzzle device on this thing yet. This is another one where I would like to suppress it, but I don't know about, I've never really heard too many people talking about suppressing 6.5 Grendel. And I just hadn't got around to it. It shoots fine without it. There's no recoil. I killed my 2 biggest bucks with this year. If you guys watch the channel, if you go back and look, I've posted videos of both of them, actually. My biggest buck, he was 144 inches, and there was a little bit of brush in front of me. If you go back and look at the video, you can see it. It looks like I'm shooting through the trees, but I wasn't really, but it was a little bit of brush. And he was at about 45, 50 yards. I shot him right behind the shoulder. He ran maybe 30 yards and crumpled up. Now the second deer, I shot him. He was almost standing looking away from me, slightly, I don't even want to say quartered. He was slightly turned and had his head back, and I stuck that bullet right behind his front shoulder, and he ran probably 100 yards. Yeah, probably 80 to 100 yards, and never a drop of blood that I found. Thankfully, I knew the direction he ran, and I was smart enough, to go and look. So that it was a little troublesome with that second deer that there was absolutely no blood. But I mean, obviously it turned out all right. The only thing that I'd really like to change is the butt stock. I would eventually like to either put a fixed stock or something else, but I want the same camo job. I was in the Marine Corps. I always liked our desert camouflage. We were in Kuwait in 2003, and of course we were in the desert, so we were in camouflage, and I've just really always loved this desert camouflage pattern. So that's why I ended up going with desert camouflage. I know it's silly, me living in the mountains of West Virginia hunting with a desert camouflage rifle, but this is, if somebody told me today that I had to get rid of every gun except for one, this is the one that I would keep. I absolutely love this rifle in 6.5 Grendel, and I like that. So let me tell you what I like about the 6.5 Grendel. It punches. It's got plenty of punch. 50, 100, probably 200, 250, 300 yards. Now, they say the 6.5 Grendel is accurate out to 1,000 yards. I would never shoot at anything as big as a white-tailed deer or a bear, especially not an elk or anything, with this small round out at those kind of distances. But 250 yards, maybe even 300 yards and under, shooting a white-tailed deer all day long. Just send it. Obviously, shot placement is a big deal. Hit that hard or hit those double lungs, and you shouldn't have a problem. That's with any caliber, but especially with a smaller caliber. I mean, the bullet itself, I mean, it's got a lot of lead, and then obviously there's a bunch of powder, in this round. But I love it because there is essentially no recoil. I could shoot this gun all day long and never get tired. It never hurt me. I'm obviously, you can tell I'm a big dude, but man, some of the times, I've got a 450 Bushmaster, and after a couple rounds, I'm like, I'm done. I've got a 450 Bushmaster AR-15 and a 450 Bushmaster Ruger American, and both of them, after a couple rounds, I just, it's different when you're shooting in a range, and then when the adrenaline's pumping and you're shooting at an animal. When you're shooting at an animal, one shot, no big deal. But when you're on the range trying to sight it in 5, 10 shots, it starts to put a whooping on you. This one doesn't do this. So one of the things when I mentioned about this, when I was talking about hunting, if I can ride a side-by-side to my spot, this is, ideal. But if you're walking, sometimes I like to, still hunt. I'll get up, walk around a little bit, and I don't like carrying that if I'm up walking around. This thing, I can put my sling on, have it slung around my chest, just like I would have it carried like when I was in the Marine Corps, and it's not cumbersome or anything like that. But that thing, so this is actually the second AR-10 308 I've had by Aero Precision. The first one I did in OD green, And it was just so heavy. I was like, I can't do this, or I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to, and I ended up selling it. Regretted it afterwards. I wish I wouldn't have. So I built this one, and I was like, yeah, I'm not getting rid of that. But yeah, the 6.5 Grendel. I guess the one big downside for 6.5 Grendel is I've gotten pretty lucky going out to Cabela's, or some of the other local gun stores and getting ammo off the shelf. But 6.5 Grendel ammo is not always on the shelf. 308 ammo is always on the shelf. If really bad things happen, I guarantee I could find 308 ammo probably in my neighborhood in somebody else's house. I'm not going to find 6.5 Grendel laying around in somebody else's house. It's an oddball caliber. I like the oddball calibers, but there's a disadvantage to that. So that's it, guys. That's my opinion on what I think is the best deer hunting caliber. Now there's some other great ones. I've got 30-06. I've got 6.5 Creedmoor. I've got 450 Bushmaster. Let's see what else. Just trying to think off the top of my head. I think that's all the rifle caliber. Well, 223, 5.56. That's all the rifle calibers I own. Obviously, I have 12 gauges coming out my ears. I've got multiple pump action 12 gauges. I've got multiple semi-auto 12 gauges. So a 12 gauge slug obviously would put a deer down. But as far as my opinion on the best round, these are my top two. Now 30-06 brings up a good point as far as if you had to go scrounge for them. 30-06 is in every household, every hunting household in America. So that's a round that you could find. 12 gauge and 30-06 you could probably find pretty readily available. But that's my favorite. So you guys let me know down in the comments, what is your favorite caliber, or what do you think is the best hunting caliber? And hope to see you guys in the comments.